In December 2024, the tranquil routines of New England's most prestigious academic communities were shattered by a series of unimaginable events. What began as an ordinary winter week quickly spiraled into chaos, as two shocking attacks unfolded in rapid succession, leaving students, faculty, and families in disbelief and fear. The sense of safety that had long defined these campuses was suddenly and violently stripped away. The nightmare began when a lone gunman struck at Brown University, sending shockwaves through the tight-knit academic community. Just as the city of Providence was beginning to process the horror, tragedy struck again, this time in Brookline, Massachusetts, where an MIT professor was murdered in cold blood. The attacks, separated by only a few days, left the entire region gripped by anxiety and uncertainty. At first, authorities feared the violence was random, a terrifying prospect for anyone living or working in the area. But as investigators pored over evidence and pieced together witness accounts, a chilling connection emerged. Both crimes were soon linked to a single suspect, Claudio Neves Valente, a name that would become synonymous with terror for many in the days to come. The attack at Brown University unfolded inside an engineering building, a place usually filled with the hum of research and learning. On that day, it became a scene of chaos and heartbreak as the gunman opened fire, leaving behind a trail of devastation. Lives lost, others forever changed, and a community struggling to comprehend the senseless violence. As Providence reeled from the shock, the news of the MIT professor's murder broke, sending fresh waves of fear and sorrow across the region. The academic world, known for its pursuit of knowledge and innovation, was now united in grief and apprehension, as students and faculty grappled with the reality that their campuses were no longer sanctuaries. In response, law enforcement agencies launched a massive manhunt. The FBI joined forces with local police, setting up command centers, scouring neighborhoods, and searching wooded areas in a desperate race against time to find the perpetrator before he could strike again. The entire region watched anxiously as the search intensified, hoping for answers and an end to the terror. As the suspect's identity and his ties to both Brown and MIT came to light, communities across New England were left mourning the victims and searching for meaning in the aftermath. Vigils were held, flags lowered, and students gathered to support one another, determined to heal and to honor those whose lives were so tragically cut short. Claudio Neves Valente, a 48-year-old Portuguese national, was a man whose life story would ultimately become a puzzle for investigators and the public alike. His name, once unknown to most, would soon be at the center of a tragic and confounding case that spanned multiple states and left communities searching for answers. Authorities identified Valente as the primary suspect in both attacks, linking him to a series of violent events that shocked those who knew him and those who didn't. The investigation quickly became a high-profile manhunt, as law enforcement agencies from several jurisdictions worked together to piece together his movements and motives. Years earlier, Valente had shown great promise. He was once a graduate student in physics at the prestigious Brown University, a place known for nurturing some of the brightest minds. Colleagues and professors remembered him as quiet, intelligent, and deeply focused on his studies. Yet, despite his academic potential, Valente's time at Brown was brief and unremarkable, and he soon faded into obscurity, leaving behind few traces of his ambitions or personal connections. Valente arrived in the United States in 2000, seeking new opportunities and a fresh start. He briefly attended Brown University, but after leaving, he remained in the country and eventually became a legal resident. Over the years, however, his life took a different turn. He became increasingly isolated, rarely seen by neighbors or former classmates. Those who encountered him described a man who kept to himself, living quietly and avoiding attention. By the time of the attacks, Valente had no current ties to Brown University or the New England area. He was living in Miami, thousands of miles away from the scenes of the crimes. His life in Miami was similarly solitary, with little evidence of close relationships or community involvement. The distance between his residence and the locations of the attacks only deepened the mystery surrounding his actions. After a tense 6-day manhunt that spanned state lines and involved multiple law enforcement agencies, Valente was found dead by suicide in a storage unit in New Hampshire. The discovery brought an abrupt end to the immediate threat, but it also left investigators and the public with a sense of unfinished business. The circumstances of his death raised as many questions as they answered. Inside the storage unit, police recovered 2 firearms and a satchel, believed to be the tools he used in the attacks. The presence of these items suggested careful planning, but offered little insight into his state of mind or the reasons behind his actions. Forensic teams combed through the evidence, hoping to find clues that might explain what drove Valente to commit such violence. With Valente's death, the case was officially closed, but for many, closure remained elusive. Journalists and community members gathered outside police stations, searching for any new information that might shed light on the tragedy. The public, left reeling, struggled to make sense of the events and the man at their center. The lack of a clear motive, combined with Valente's absence of recent connections to his targets, only deepened the mystery. Investigators found no manifesto, no clear statement of intent, and no evidence of recent contact with the victims or the university. The case became a haunting reminder of how little we sometimes know about those around us. In the aftermath, the communities affected by Valente's actions were left to grapple with the senselessness of what had occurred. Vigils were held, flowers were laid in memory of the victims, and people came together to support one another. Yet, the question of who Claudio Neves Valente truly was, and why he did what he did, remains unanswered, casting a long shadow over all those touched by his story. On a cold December Saturday, Brown University's campus was shattered by gunfire. Claudio Valente entered an engineering building and opened fire, turning a place of learning into chaos. 2 students were killed and 9 others wounded, their lives forever changed in an instant. The attack appeared random. Valente had no known connection to his victims or the building. The campus community was left grieving, struggling to comprehend the violence. Vigils and memorials followed, as the university mourned and sought to heal. Investigators found no clear motive, only the chilling reality that anyone could have been a victim. The question of why here remained painfully unanswered. The attack claimed 2 young lives, students full of promise and hope. Their names became symbols of the community's loss, mourned by friends, family, and faculty. 9 others were wounded, each carrying physical and emotional scars. The randomness of the violence made the tragedy even harder to bear. Memorials and tributes honored the victims, reminding all of the human cost. Law enforcement confirmed Valente had no relationship with those he targeted. The victims were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, their futures stolen in a senseless act. Just days after the shocking events at Brown University, another tragedy unfolded, this time in the quiet, tree-lined streets of Brookline, Massachusetts. The community, still reeling from the recent violence, was about to be shaken once more by a crime that would send shockwaves far beyond the local neighborhood. Professor Nuno F.G. Loureiro, a brilliant and widely respected physicist at MIT, was found murdered in his own home. Known for his groundbreaking research and dedication to his students, Loureiro's sudden and violent death left colleagues, friends, and family in disbelief. The scene outside his modest Brookline residence was somber, with police tape fluttering in the breeze and officers moving quietly in and out of the house, piecing together the grim details. Unlike the seemingly random act of violence at Brown, this was a calculated, targeted killing. Investigators quickly realized that Loureiro had not been a victim of chance, but of someone with a specific motive. The meticulous nature of the crime scene suggested planning and intent, raising even more questions about who could have wanted the esteemed professor dead. The academic world was left in a state of shock. News of Loureiro's murder spread rapidly across the MIT campus and beyond, with students and faculty gathering in disbelief. Reporters camped outside the university, broadcasting updates as detectives pored over evidence, determined to find answers. The sense of safety that once defined the campus was shattered, replaced by fear and uncertainty. At first, the 2 crimes appeared to be unrelated tragedies, 2 separate acts of violence with no obvious connection. But as detectives compared case files and examined the mounting evidence, subtle links began to emerge. Patterns in the methods, timing, and even the choice of victims hinted at a single perpetrator orchestrating both attacks. The murder of such a prominent scientist in his own home only intensified the urgency of the investigation. Police increased their presence around MIT and in Brookline, determined to prevent further violence and bring the killer to justice. The community watched anxiously as investigators worked around the clock, piecing together clues and following every lead. As police connected the dots, a name began to surface: Claudio Valente. Evidence from both crime scenes pointed to him as the link between the 2 attacks. Detectives highlighted his photo on the investigation board, realizing they were dealing with a suspect who had managed to evade capture while leaving a trail of devastation. What began as two separate investigations now merged into a single chilling narrative. The hunt for the truth, and for justice, had only just begun. Professor Nuno Loureiro was a leading MIT physicist and head of the Plasma Science and Fusion Center. His research in nuclear fusion was internationally recognized, and he was beloved by students and colleagues. Loureiro's academic journey began in Portugal, where he graduated from Instituto Superior Técnico in 2000. He joined MIT in 2016, quickly earning respect for his brilliance and mentorship. His murder was a devastating loss to science, his family, and the MIT community. Initially, no connection to the Brown attack was apparent, but a shared past with Valente soon surfaced. This link would become crucial to understanding the true scope of the tragedy. Initially, police treated the Brown and MIT attacks as separate crimes. The breakthrough came when investigators traced a rental car to both crime scenes. Surveillance footage and records pointed to Claudio Valente as the common link. The FBI and local police launched a massive manhunt, deploying hundreds of agents. Valente used sophisticated methods to evade capture, complicating the search. The pursuit ended in New Hampshire, where Valente was found dead by suicide. Law enforcement confirmed he acted alone, but his motives remained elusive. The investigation closed with more questions than answers, leaving communities unsettled. Digging deeper, investigators discovered Valente and Loureiro's shared past at Instituto Superior Técnico in Lisbon. Both studied physics engineering there from 1995 to 2000, likely crossing paths as classmates. While Loureiro excelled and built a stellar career, Valente left and moved to the U.S. This connection suggested the murder was personal, not random. Yet, no evidence of a specific conflict between them was found. The true nature of their relationship, and what may have driven Valente, remained a mystery. Despite solving the case, the question of motive remains unanswered. Valente's reasons for attacking Brown and killing Loureiro are unknown, and may never be revealed. Investigators found no evidence he knew the Brown victims, or targeted the location for a specific reason. The shared academic history with Loureiro hints at a personal vendetta, but no clear motive emerged. Law enforcement ruled out anti-Semitism and other common motives. The tragedy left Brown and MIT communities grieving, with no closure in sight. Some acts of violence defy explanation, leaving only sorrow and unanswered questions.